And how can
God,
God die?
But
God
we were
tells
made
you,
in His image,
God
Okay.
tells you
and to say
over
that,
and God tells you over and over again, he is not a man. In Hosea
okay,
11 and 9, at the end of that verse, he says, "For I am the Holy One of Israel and not a man." So he tells you he's not a
right.
man. And then he tells you that he doesn't change in Malachi 3 and 6. So I highly doubt that he's going to change his mind and turn into a man.
Well, He said we're created in His image,
Right.
but
Just because we're created in
we're
his.
mankind. Doesn't
Have
that
you
make
ever
Him
have you
man?
ever drew something on a piece of paper before? Have you ever tried to
Yep,
draw something that looked like you on a piece of paper before?
I draw all the time.
Okay, so do you make stuff in your image?
No,
No, you ain't never drew nothing that came from the images in your head. You ain't never did that.
nope.
Yeah, okay,
Every
yeah,
time I
you being
draw, like,
dishonest. You being dishonest. We don't got time for that. You up here playing.
Yeah. I
You up
don't.
here
I'm
playing.
shocked to see this type of hypocrisy. Arguing in bad faith like this. I want to give my perspective, not my perspective, but based on the scriptures, right? But it's my, let's just say, my argument. See, that humanity was created for immortality, and the transition from Eden to a world of mortality was gradual. So the early generations lived longer because they were closer in time and nature to the perfection of the Garden of Eden. So as humanity moved further away from their original state, both temporally and through the, let's just say, the accumulation of transgressions, the capacity for life naturally diminished. So the early humanity, it possessed a larger or more expansive soul because they had to perform the monumental work of populating the world and establishing the foundations of human civilization and knowledge. As the population grew and the nature of human task changed, the sparks of those original larger souls were distributed. So each individual, they were given a specific lifespan necessary to accomplish their particular portion of the world.
Mhm. It just gets crazy at a point where people just. Mm.
Brother, I think the one of the toughest things for people who see that they've been deceived in Christianity is to admit it, that they've been deceived. I was there. I did it for 23 years. And when I found out I was wrong, I accepted it. I was mad as hell, but I still accepted it. And I made a promise to the Most High. And that promise was, you show me the truth. I don't care who it comes from. I don't care where it comes from, but show me the truth and I'll accept it. So
Mhm.
once I did that, the whole Torah opened up to me. And
The
I saw all
problem.
of the lies that we were taught because of when Israel went into captivity from Assyria, Babylon, going in, coming out, and then finally going into captivity. That's when you see all these denominations come up in the 1800s. The Baptists, the Catholics, the Seventh Day Adventists, the all those churches, especially here in America, but they all still come from Rome. And with all of those religions doing what they're doing, they're saying, well, my church is right and we're right and you can't go to heaven and all this stuff because you don't have the truth. None of them are correct because none of them are in a relationship with the creator.
Right.
And the creator only keeps his word with what comes out of his mouth, according to Psalms 89, right? I will not alter the thing that has come out of my lips. So when the Most High made that covenant with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and their descendants, that's what his thing is. And that's where we have to keep our focus on is what is the Most High doing to get Israel to come home, to come back to him. He's not concerned about the other nations, and that's very obvious.
Because the other nations are supposed to follow suit with Israel. That's why
Right,
he's not concerned with them. So
right.
once Israel gets their stuff in order, then the nations will see it and the nations will want to follow.
And
And
that's
this
why it
is
says that in Zechariah chapter 8, verse
yeah,
23.
and
He
this
will
is
take
like
hold of him of the skirt of him that is a Jew, saying, we will
mhm,
follow you, for we have seen that God is with you. He
mhm.
didn't say that we're going to grab the hold of the skirt of somebody that's a Christian. It doesn't say that in the text.
The biggest problem that I see with dealing with a lot of people who believe the way that they believe is none of them like to deal with logic. None of them. Like
Yeah.
you'll explain something from a logical standpoint. Like first and foremost, the language is a complicated language. They don't want to understand that. If it fits their narrative, they're gonna go with whatever fits their narrative instead of trying to do a deep dive into the language or the history on top of that, the cultural
Yes.
history.
Yep.
Those things don't matter to them. You can mention cultural history. Hey, this is what was going on in that time period. These
I
are other
understand.
sources. These are other sources that prove that this is what's going on in that time period.
Yep.
This is what the language is trying to tell you. You have to use the language properly. They don't
Yep.
want to. They don't want to adhere to that. If it say what if it says something to fit their narrative, all they care about is it fits my narrative. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't see it being no other way because the other way doesn't fit my narrative, and that's
And it's so
basically
sad that they think that
pridefulness.
way too. It's
Yeah.
very sad that they think that way because it's not going to get them any closer to the creator. And they think because they're arguing with somebody that has a different viewpoint, they
Mm-hmm.
don't know that the Most High is listening very carefully to what comes out of our mouths
Mm-hmm.
about Him and how either we are worshiping Him and Him only, or we're stuck in idolatry.
Mm-hmm.
And the Most High has absolutely nothing to do with Christianity or
Nothing.
any other religion because He is a jealous Elohim.
Yep.
And because of His jealousy, He says idolatry is the greatest sin, and because it spreads like the V, you know, the big V virus. It's a virus, and the only way you could get rid of it is to burn it out. You
Right.
got you got to get rid of it, and so he
I
says that there are smoke in my nostrils. Those idolaters.
I had a debate earlier. Right. A gentleman was pulling out Isaiah 9:6. Right. And
Uh
he
huh.
was basically talking about what it says in the Hebrew. And okay, so we know that Isaiah 9:6. For unto us a child has been born, unto
Mm-hmm.
us a child is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, right?
Uh-huh.
Now, in a lot of translations, it says, and he is called the wondrous advisor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. This is what it says in a lot of translations.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to him, okay, let's go with that, right? And let's understand it from the Hebrew, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he started asking, well, what does it say in the Hebrew? And I explained to him it's Pele Yoetz El Gabor Aviad Sar Shalom, right?
Aviad Sessional.
So Pele Yoetz is what means wonderful counselor, or it can mean wondrous advisor, amazing counselor, so forth and so on. The
Uh-huh.
Hebrew is complex. It's just like the English, where you got words that mean several different things. It's
Have
just
separate different
like the
meanings.
English,
Yes.
right? If I say lead, right, and I spell lead, Lead, that can mean a mineral, a rock, right?
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lead rock, or it can mean lead, like I led somebody, or lead
Yes.
when you pronounce it a different way.
Yes.
Lead has more than one meaning. It's the same thing with the Hebrew. The only thing is you got so many of these Christian translations circulating around that they're going to pick whatever definition of that word fits their narrative instead
Right.
of telling you the truth about what was going on in that time period. This is the reason why you got to use context.
Right.
So
Context is paramount.
what is it? Pele Yoetz, wondrous advisor, right? Then we got to El Gabor. That's where the stumbling block came in at. Because I'm trying to explain to him, El Gabor does not always mean mighty God. It
Right.
doesn't. El Gabor can mean strong, mighty one. It can mean divine hero. It's a bunch of different translations of that word. Just like any other English word that has multiple definitions, El Gabor has multiple definitions as well.
Hmm.
You get what I'm saying? And I'm breaking
Yes.
this down to him, and we couldn't get past that because he wants to lie and say, no, the only time you hear the word El is when it's referring to the creator. No, it's not,
Yes.
because you can go into Ezekiel 31 and 11, right? And in Ezekiel 31 and 11, it says the mighty one of the nations. It says the phrase the mighty one of the nations in Ezekiel 31:11.
Uh-huh.
In the Hebrew, that's El Goyim, the mighty one of the
One of the
nations.
nations, yeah. El Goyim.
So it's not referring to God.
Right.
It's saying the
El
mighty.
just means power or
Right.
might.
And in the context of that particular passage, the creator is saying that he's going to deliver the Israelites into the hands of the mighty one of the nations. Right? So it's not talking about no God. It's
Yeah.
talking about the king of a different nation. I'm gonna deliver you into their hands. Right? So I'm trying to get to this point to explain it to him. Nobody ever takes the patience and the time to let you land your plane on that,
Just to
because
listen.
they don't want to listen, because they know
Right.
that in the end of it, it's going to crack their worldview. When you
Yeah.
realize these words that you say only mean one thing, no, they don't. They mean more than one thing, and you're just using the wrong context. Because then what I wanted to do was take him to verse 11, where it says that but the Creator has spurred the enemies of Rezin on, and then it goes on to
Mhm.
mention the Assyrians, so
Mhm.
that I could ask him, this particular king, when was he an enemy to King Rezin? When was he an enemy to the Assyrians? When did
Right.
that happen for JC? If you believe it's
Right.
JC, because
And they
JC
don't have
didn't
an
even.
answer for that.
Right. They can't answer that because they don't want to deal with the context. All they
Right.
care about is how it fits their narrative. If I just keep beating it in my head that it says mighty God and there's no other definition, right? Then I'm going to be right about what I'm saying. No, deal with the context. And then on top of that, another question I would have asked him is when the opening part of that verse, it says, "Unto us a child has been born." That's
Present
not
tense.
future tense.
That's present tense.
Right. That's present tense. The child is right then and there. Why are you saying that this is a prophecy for 700 to 800 years in the future if it doesn't say, "and the day shall come" or "the time shall pass"? It doesn't say that. It says, "Unto us a child has been born, unto us a son is given." That's past and present tense.
Yes.
That's not future tense. But they
Right.
don't want to deal with context. And then the other part of it, Peleoetz, El Gabor, Aviad, right? Aviad can mean everlasting father, but it can also mean father of perpetualness, right? There's different definitions for these words. So in the midst of me trying to get to the point of landing my plane, this dude just goes ahead and he drops me off the panel, and I was asking him I asked him those questions and he couldn't answer them. So he wants to stick to, no, El Gabor doesn't mean that. It just means this because there's another passage that says El Gabor and it's talking about Yahweh. Okay, well you don't want to let me get to these other passages, Ezekiel 31:11, Ezekiel 32:21, where one says El Goyim. Is it talking about Yahweh there? And then the
Right.
other one is Eli Gibborim, which is the plural form of El Gabor.
Oh, okay.
Is it talking about Yahweh there? You get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
they,
Not if
they
it's
never
plural.
want to deal with context.
Yeah.
They don't want to.
What I do, Jay, when it comes to Isaiah 9:6 or Isaiah 7:14, I ask them, have you read the chapter? And if they say yes, and I said, okay, have you read verse 1 of Isaiah 1:1?
Mhm.
And they're more than 90% of the time they'll tell me no. I says, well, if you read Isaiah 1:1, it'll tell you who the entire chapters are dealing with.
Right, right,
the entire chapter, right? And
right,
then I said, if you have you read Second Chronicles 32:32? And they say no. I says, well, the writer of Chronicles says that that the whole story in Second Chronicles is talking about Hezekiah and is written in the book of Isaiah.
right, right. They never want to deal with context. They never want to deal with precept upon precept. They only want to stick to what they feel fits their narrative without understanding
Right.
how in error they are. Like you're in error. You don't want to understand. You don't want to understand this because it doesn't fit your narrative. Now you got to change your whole worldview because you've been in error for who knows, 15, 20, 30 years.
Yes.
So
That's
it
kind of
is what it
strange because
is.
that's a host. That's kind of strange because I just come from the panel. I think he was a pastor guy, and me and him was going back and forth with Isaiah 9:6 also.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then he say, I let him read it. He say, you see, that mean that's Jesus. I say, no, it doesn't. He say, what? No, it doesn't. I say, I tell you what, I'm gonna use your King James where you won't say, I got the original version of it. But I'm gonna read yours. I'm just gonna show you that it's not gonna help you none anyway. So I read, I say, see, the child is born. The child, it does not say shall be. The
Right.
Bible, when it learned how to write, it says shall and is. That means the child is born. So this, he say, well, who is it? You're the one making a claim. I just prove it's not Jesus. That's just leave it
Right.
like that. You the claim
Yeah,
bringer.
yeah.
So you tell me who it is.
Yeah, you got a point on that. Like let them
You the one
try to
bringing the
prove it.
claim.
Like they never want to. And then like, how can he be the Prince of Peace when it says in I think it's in Matthew where he says, "I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword."
Mm-hmm.
So how can he be the Prince of Peace if he's telling you he's not? Like that doesn't make sense, man.
Mm-hmm.
Make it make sense.
Makes
Logic,
sense.
logic, wisdom, and understanding overcomes all.
Right.
We got another guest that wants to come up on the panel.
Yeah, and then I take them to Luke, what is prophesied with the angel is prophesied, and it's saying shall. He shall be born. He shall do this. He shall be called the son.
Luke changes up the tenses, and you can't do that because why would you change up the tenses from what the prophet is saying? The prophet's words are supposed to be held to be true. So if you're changing the tense to be being shall instead of is or already has been, right? That's deceptive because those are very small words that people don't pay attention to. Those small prepositional words,
I think that's
right? It's the same thing with Isaiah 53 in these new age translations. It says that the servant is being wounded or bruised, right, for the sins of his brothers, right? That's not what it says in the Hebrew. In the Hebrew, it says because of, from. It doesn't say for. That changes the whole
That
narrative.
changes everything.
Right. That one prepositional word changes the whole narrative, and they refuse to even look at that. Like basically, the prophet don't know what he talking about. The prophet, it's supposed to be for. It's not
Yeah,
supposed to be because
yeah.
of.
The whole panel be mad with you.
Mhm.
Right.
It's all the amount of time for they drop you.
Yep. And they don't even give
Once you
give
say
it an
that
inkling of a
Jesus,
chance.
and once you say Jesus, not Isaiah 9:6, all the mics come off. What? What? What?
What?
What?
Yeah.
What? What? You're not a Christian. What? What?
Well, we got somebody on the panel. What's the name of
Primordial or Primo for sure if you want.
Primordial?
Or Primo for sure if you want.
What brings you up?
Well, I heard you talking, and I heard our ROB, and I heard the conversation about Isaiah 9:6.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most people tend to think it's Jesus because they've been told that over and over. They never really looked at the context of verse 7, must go with verse 6.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, nowhere in the New Testament do they quote Isaiah 9:6 as fulfilled. But hey,
Yeah,
at least
that's another thing. They don't even quote it in the New Testament. So how is it How has it got anything to do with JC when it's not even quoted in the New Testament?
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
just craziness.
Well, it's like if people hear a bunch of things over and over, they get like a form of indoctrination to it. And so they start looking for things to fit it, but it's not saying that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
People don't
That's
study and they don't know prophecy as well, so there's that.
that's one of the biggest stumbling blocks is that language. The language is a huge stumbling block that a
Yes, I
lot of
agree.
people that a lot of people don't understand and they don't try to overcome.
Yep, that's why I tell people look at all translations. Don't just rely on one. You gotta make sure you're grasping what's really being spoken to the people.
When my Hebrew teacher was teaching our class, his name is Zion Lex. I was tutored under him. He said, if a translator translates the Bible the way he translates it, if you don't understand how to read or write the Hebrew, at least at a basic level, you're going to be in subjection to whatever the translator says the words mean. You're going to be at the mercy of the translators. In other words, that's what he's really saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're gonna be a victim of indoctrination
Yes.
because you'll never get the true understanding if you don't know what the words are actually meaning.
Yes. Just like you were saying about the El Gabor and all that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah. And
Another one
Professor,
that I like doing is because the Christians always talk about it's time for JC to return. He's coming back. Da, da, da. And I just say, well, you're saying that the Son of God is coming, right? He's on his way and all that. They say, yeah. Look at the prophecies of blah blah blah. I says, well, what verses are you using to show that JC is the son that the scriptures is talking about from the Torah and the writings of the prophets? And they say, well, the book of Daniel, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, the book of Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel, they say that the Son of God is coming back to do his work, his strange act. But it's not talking about an individual. It's talking about the nation.
mm-hmm.
So that's the Son of God that is returning.
Professor Bond brought up one earlier. We were talking about Psalms 22, verse
Uh-huh.
16. That's another stumbling block because for like the average person that reads that, they think that it says they pierced my hands and my feet. It don't even,
Oh, like
it's
a
not even
lion.
it's not even
Yeah.
remotely close to that.
Close. Yeah, that word is kari.
Yeah. And that
That
word and
means
the
like a
word
lion. They're
Like
right.
at
even
my
if they
hand.
even if they have said pierced, they have pierced my hands and feet. Still, who's the subject who's reciting that? So go to the start of the chapter. It says a psalm from David,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
David starts a recitation. Still, it doesn't talk about Jesus. I cannot fathom how they make all these whirlpools and tsunamis of logical leaps
Yeah.
to come to say, oh, he's talking about Jesus. So every
Yeah.
time you see a man is being pierced, every time you see a man bleeding, every time you see a man breaking bread, apparently, Jesus.
Yeah.
Anytime the Tanakh talks about a lamb, Jesus.
Yeah.
Even if you look at the Hebrew word for pears, it doesn't even align. It's a different
Yeah.
word that they keep
Yeah.
trying to go to. It don't even align. It's not even the same word.
Right. Because the word pierce ain't even in there. Like they basically make up a word. And I've heard people argue, I said this earlier, I've heard people argue that, oh, that's because that word is Aramaic. And it's like, but the Psalms weren't written in
In
Aramaic.
Aramaic.
So
Right.
why are they using one Aramaic word?
Word.
Oh,
Exactly.
well, I just don't get it sometimes. Like, and it's a made up word. They use the word ka'aru. That's not even a word.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you were trying to say karu, karu means to dig or to
dig, yeah.
screw, to excavate. It doesn't
Dig or
mean
open.
pierce.
Yeah, it's just dig or open. And we see
Right.
that we see the word being translated a million times and they never use pairs. They only use pairs when they get to that one verse.
Mhm.
It's
Hmm.
not pairs nowhere else. You would never see it translated
Professor,
as pairs.
Professor, I got a question.
Yeah, tell me.
Okay. Uh, can you read the Hebrew and interpret? And I've always been baffled by this. Zechariah, I think it's chapter 9, where it talks about the battle.
Chapter 12.
Chapter 12, okay. Chapter 12, where it talks about the battle and this king is pierced and the nation mourns for him and all that. What is the correct interpretation of that from the Hebrew?
Do you know the
Correct,
verse
correct
you're talking
word.
about?
I
12 and
think it's
10.
12, 9 and 10 or something like that.
Yep.
It's word.
Ah, yeah, I
Isaiah.
think I remember this. We got this in a debate once with the Persian Jew. So let me go to the Hebrew.
Yeah, it's the thrust through.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm. And they will look upon me concerning those who, the one or those who they have thrust through. If it's the one, basically the one in this essence is a singular with plural intensiveness. Because if you deal with the context, the whole context is telling you about the Jews going back into Jerusalem and fighting the war.
Right, right.
You know,
Oh,
and
so
so
so vehibitu elai et asher dacharu. They have thrusted, right? So the question of whether dacharu means pierced or thrust, it's primarily a matter of semantic range. So not a conflict between two opposing definitions, because dakaru or dakar, the verb dakar means to stab or wound someone, or
Mm-hmm.
specifically with a pointed weapon, like it could be a knife, a dart, a sword.
Right.
So whether you translate it as pierced or thrust through, both are technically accurate of the same piercing, but the piercing focuses on the result, the whole creator, while thrusting focuses on the action, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the context of this is the violence it creates, right? So in the other Tanakh occurrences, like in the Book of Lamentations or in Isaiah 13:15, Dakar consistently refers to being wounded or killed by a thrusting weapon in battle, right? So the same thing in Samuel 31:4, they talk about this. So thrust through is a very literal contextual rendering, while pierced is a common acceptable translation. But remember, these are soldiers in war. So
Yes.
the text says a lie, right? And then it uses asher dacharu, the one who they thrusted through. So grammatically, there is a tension between looking at me and looking at him. So
Yes.
does this talk about Jesus? Absolutely not,
Yeah.
because Jesus didn't go to war.
Correct.
very true.
We look
Like
upon
the
me whom they have
literal
pierced.
physical war.
Yeah. And then the nation mourns for whoever this was that was unalived also.
And then they're going to say it's Jesus. Okay. So the Christian perspective is that because the verse mentioned looking upon me whom they have pierced. So it's cited in the Gospel of John as a direct reference to the piercings,
Yes.
right? But the thing is, why isn't it not? Why isn't it about Jesus?
Besides him not going to war for that purpose.
Yeah, so I'll give you context as to why. Because the Hebrew grammar itself shows that, based on the Hebrew text. So if let me refresh my page to go to the Torah in this place, Tanakh, Zechariah 12:10. Okay, so the Christian interpretation over here, so it says, "Vehibitu elai et asher dakaru." So there's a significant textual debate regarding the pronoun, because the Hebrew text says elai, at me, So even the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? It so some in the Septuagint it says at him. So in the Hebrew syntax, if one assumes that the reading of Elav to him, the subject shifts from God speaking in the first person to a third person referent,
Oh, okay.
right? So
Third person.
And
yeah,
now you said the word is Asher Dakaru.
yeah, إذا شئت
And it's perfect. It's in its perfect sense. I mean, it's absolute.
Asher Dakaru.
But man, we know that
yeah.
this person experienced because of the war, and everyone didn't cry for Buddy in Jerusalem. Everyone didn't cry for him. That day
Mm,
was not like that day. If you just stay in context, it just doesn't fit.
Right.
But they take their concept of the New Testament, and then they try to apply it instead of
To the Old Testament instead of
yeah,
the other way around.
yeah. And that's why you get a lot of these arguments, a lot of these fights.
Hmm.
yeah.
Because that's where they're starting from. This is where their ideology starts. And then they come and bring it into the Old Testament to validate.
Yeah, because we need to also see the textual accuracy over here. So I'll read it again from verse 9. Verse 9 says, "V'haya bayom hahu avakesh lehashmid et kol hagoyim habayim al Yerushalayim." Right, and it shall come to pass on that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against
That's
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. Hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
And it says, "V'shafachti al beit David ve'al Yoshev Yerushalayim ruachen ve'tachanunim ve'hibitu elai et asher dakahu v'saftu alav kemitzpeh al hayachid umar alav ke'hamer al habechor." So, and I will pour out upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem a spirit of grace and supplications, and they shall look to me concerning those whom they have thrust through, and they shall mourn for him, right? And as one mourned for his only son, and shall be in the bitterness for him as one in the bitterness of his son. So the thing is this, as I said, Dakar, because Pinehas takes a spear and then boom, a white cord thrust through the prince of Simeon and the Midianite woman. Same thing in
Yes.
First Samuel.
Uh-huh.
King Saul is losing a battle and screams to his armor bearer,
My bear.
draw
Thrust
your,
me through.
draw your sword and
Thrust me through.
ukagani,
Yeah.
thrust me through with it, lest these uncircumcised come and thrust me. So Dakaru does not mean a non-fatal puncture wound or a small crucifixion nail. It means a lethal battlefield impalement with a blade. So the Christian argues, and I've seen Christians argue, that the person being thrust through is Jesus, because the text says, "They shall look to me." They are ignoring the immediate grammatical break in the very next phrase. "They shall look to me, Eli," that is God, "concerning those whom they have thrust through, and they shall mourn for him as one moans for an only son." So now they're trying to say this is a Trinity. So if
You
the
say
person,
it's, oh yeah, that's and it's out of context because you see that they try to make this God, but you don't see I there. It's him. You see, they look upon me and then him. They try
Hey,
to afflict
I
both.
fellas, I apologize. I gotta let y'all know that my time is up because it's
no worries.
bedtime for me out here.
Oh, okay.
But I
All right.
really appreciate the conversation, and hopefully we can continue it again, a little later tomorrow, y'all. But I want to say shalom to everybody,
Shalom, everybody.
and y'all have a blessed week, a blessed weekend. Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Thessalonians 2:4 is explaining about the devil, the Antichrist, all that good stuff. And if you were to read it in Hebrew, you would get a clear understanding. But since it says it in modern English, it's confusing. But he says, who opposeth and exalts himself above all things that is called God, or that everything that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself